Abby and welcome back to a new video. Something I am very good at is buying things. I buy a lot of things. Something I buy a lot of is fabric. I have so much fabric that I'll see in the store and I'm like, oh, this is a grand idea. And then I never have the time to do it. So I am motivated to try to make everything that I want to make with all my fabric this year and just start banging out amazing pieces. And so the first up on my list is this fabric. I got it like about a year ago from Joann's, and it's so pretty. It's like orange and it has like pink, purple, creamish green on it. I think it's darling. And I wanted to create a maxi tiered skirt and a matching little top. And I also wanted to put lace on it, and in my mind it's going to be beautiful. And then it just never happened. And so today we are going to make it happen. And I am so excited to finally wear this, even though right now it is winter and way too cold to wear it. You know, get a head start on that summer wardrobe. So let's jump right into making the set, and hopefully it turns out as gorgeous as I have planned.
As usual, I like to start off with my bodice, and I also like my bodice to be my 5-piece bodice style. So I tried to do something different and show my measurements and the pieces I use more clearly on this whiteboard to help everybody visualize it better. So let me know if this helps or hurts at all. All these measurements do include my seam allowance, so I cut out these exact pieces as I listed below. This is everything for one bodice, and so when you make the lining, you would have to repeat it. I start off with my center front, cutting it on the center fold to open it up to make sure that the pieces are symmetrical. And then I did the side fronts and the back pieces. And then, like I said, I repeated all of these steps to make a lining bodice using the exact same measurements. Once all of my pieces were cut out, I pinned them together, right sides together, leaving the back pieces open, and then sewed them down for both my front bodice and my lining. Moving on to my straps, I cut out 2 rectangle strips using the measurements sketched out on the whiteboard, and then I folded each strip into fourths. Folding it into fourths helps make the strap longer and more durable, and I want these straps to last a long time. Once the straps are all pinned, I like to sew down both sides of it to ensure that it'll lay flat and be secured, and I won't have to continuously iron them down in the future. Taking my 2 bodice pieces, I put them right sides together and then sandwiched in the straps, but only on the front part of the straps, not the back of the straps. And then taking a lace trim, I cut it to be the length of the bust area in between the straps and then pinned it in between the layers as well, so once I turn it inside out, the raw edge will be hidden beautifully. After sewing it down and turning it right side out, I seam ripped a small opening in the back and inserted the straps in, and then top stitched down the top edge to fully secure the straps. And then along the bottom edge, I folded in the raw edges of both bodices and then inserted in the lace trim in between them, and then sewed down the bottom edge along with the folded raw edge along the sides of the bodice and sewing that down as well. For closure, I decided to use grommets and hammer them in the back to create a lace-up back, and then after cutting a white ribbon to use to lace it up, the top was all done and it was time for the skirt. To begin, I first sketched out my measurements on the whiteboard, starting with my waistband, which will also be the first thing I will cut out. The waistband is the circumference of my waist plus some extra for the seam allowance. And since I wanted the skirt to be tiered, I wanted the top tier to be the shortest and the bottom tier to be the longest, and I cut out each of the strips according to my sketched out measurements. Since my fabric was only 44 inches long, the first tier was alright, but for the other 2 tiers I had to cut out more than 1 rectangle. So for the middle tier, I cut out 2 rectangles each 44 inches, and then I cut one of the rectangles in half and pinned it to each side of the long one and sewed it down. For the bottom tier, I cut out 3 rectangles and sewed all 3 of them together. And then, using my serger, I serged down the seam allowance and the raw edge on both the top and bottom of each tier. After all of my raw edges were taken care of, I used my hand sewing needle and did a running stitch along the top edge of all 3 of the tiers to gather them down, and once they were all gathered, I connected the bottom tier to the middle tier first, and then connected the middle tier to the first tier to have my fully tiered skirt. Taking my waistband, I ironed down the raw edge on both the top and bottom of the waistband to help hold it in place, and then I folded it in half, hiding the raw edges inside. Now, taking my newly sewed tier skirt, I opened up the waistband and inserted the skirt inside and then folded it back closed so the raw edge of the top of the skirt was tucked in between the waistband and then pinned it down. I decided to use a zipper as my choice of closure, so I pinned it down to both the waistband and the skirt, but I opened up the back part of the waistband so at least the top part of the zipper would be tucked in between the waistband and the skirt. Once the zipper was all pinned down, I pinned together the bottom of the skirt just below the zipper, and then I sewed up the bottom part of the skirt and then sewed down the zipper so the whole back end of the skirt was completely sewn together. Next, I sewed down either side of the waistband, which is the same thing as the straps to help make sure that it lays down flat and secure. And then along the bottom edge of the skirt, I folded up the serged edge and then placed the lace trim over top, sewing both done at the same time so that way there was only one line of stitching versus two. And then with that, the set was complete.